all you do and keeping us.
Good morning, my friends. Great to have you along. We're just getting underway this Thursday morning. Please hit the like button. Makes a big difference. Really appreciate it. And here we go.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario. This is the Greg Belfrage Show.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Hope you're doing really well this morning. Thank you so much for making the Greg Belfrage Show part of your day. Let's get underway. Donald Trump yesterday talking about, I think, certainly things that matter to me, talking about fighting inflation by cutting energy prices in half, securing the borders from illegal immigration, bringing supply chains back to U.S. soil. Donald Trump was in Asheville, North Carolina last night. And he has been critical of the Biden administration. There was a lot of criticism of Kamala Harris during this event. There was also a lot of substance. And the media is doing what the media always done. Oh, all of this criticism. Here's Donald Trump on a speech about the economy, and he's using it to attack. There was a lot of substance that was part of this. Donald Trump said, talking about Harris, she has, taken a position that, in fact, she was in favor of fracking. Now she switched her position on fracking. And Trump said she's switching a number of her positions, is what Donald Trump was saying. Now they're drilling. But the day after the election, if they win this election, the drilling stops, he said. By contrast, I'm announcing today that under my leadership, the United States will commit to the ambitious goal of slashing energy prices by half, Trump said. And he said, Kamala has declared that tackling inflation will be a day one priority. Think about it. For her, day one was 3.5 years ago, he said. She says her plan is going to bring down prices. Why didn't you do it? You've been there 3.5 years. I think these are great questions that Donald Trump is asking, certainly questions that are on my mind. Trump said, we will have prosperity and we will have peace. He told the crowd in North Carolina, we will end the era of inflation, mayhem, and misery. He said, vote Trump and your incomes will soar. Your savings will grow. Young people will be able to afford a home. We'll bring back the American dream better and stronger than ever before. Then he talked about talking about what's going on with incomes and energy. And he talked about the border. He said, I will seal the border. I will send them all back to their countries where they belong. Prices will come down dramatically, and come down fast, he said. He also said that with all of these people coming into the country illegally, it's endangering Social Security and Medicare, he said. He also talked about ending taxation of Social Security benefits. Pointed out that when the tax was first introduced during the Reagan administration, it only affected a small number of beneficiaries, but that has changed, he says, over time. So he also talked about tariffs. He wants to impose tariffs of between 10 and 20% on foreign countries that have been ripping us off for years. So he has in the past said 10%. Now he's saying 10 to 20. So it sounds like 10% would be the starting place when it comes to tariffs. And he says the tariffs will bring back millions and millions of jobs and bring in billions and billions of dollars. And then he compared his administration during the time he was president to what Americans are feeling now under the Biden administration. And Trump asked, does anyone feel richer under Kamala Harris and Crooked Joe? Is anything less expensive? Are you better off with Harris and Biden than you were under a person named Donald Trump? So he also promised to sign an executive order directing his cabinet secretaries, agencies to use every tool to defeat inflation, he said. So if he's elected, on my first day back in the Oval Office, I will sign an executive order directing every cabinet secretary and agency head to use every tool and authority at their disposal to defeat inflation and to bring consumer prices rapidly down, he said. So those were among the big comments from Donald Trump in Asheville, North Carolina last night. Now, meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris will today be proposing a federal ban on corporate price gouging in the food industry. And her campaign has announced this, so she will make it public today. She will also pledge that if she's elected, she will direct the Justice Department to increase scrutiny of potential mergers between grocers and food producers. And so this is part of, the Harris campaign trying to respond to the frustration of voters who are, the high cost of meat and groceries. And this is the way that she proposes to come at it, is by going after a ban on corporate price gouging. Do you think you are paying more at grocery stores today because of corporate price gouging? Is that what you think is going on? And isn't that interesting that if in fact it were, because I don't believe it for a moment, it's inflation that's driving all of this up. Isn't it interesting this happens when Democrats are in charge? So many people don't connect those dots, and I just sit back and I'm like, what? I mean, I say what to myself a lot. It's like, what? Yeah, it's crazy. So she will, this is a piece from Axios. Vice President Kamala Harris is hoping to distance herself from the president's unpopularity on the economy. So she's planning a new focus then on middle-class worries and woes. So again, I shared the comment with you about Donald Trump, what he had said. Where's she been for the last 3.5 years? Where has she been? Suddenly now she's flip-flopping on some of her positions. New York Post has got great examples of that. There's a column by Miranda Devine talking about some of this stuff. It's absolutely crazy. So we will be hearing more today from the campaign of Kamala Harris about her plans, and so brace yourself for that. Also, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz yesterday accepted an invitation from CBS News for a vice presidential debate against Senator J.D. Vance. CBS is proposing this on October 1st. So Walz said on X, see you on October 1st, J.D. So he wrote that post about 7 minutes after this had been tweeted by CBS News. And so J.D. Vance said, he told Fox News, we actually want to look at the debates, look at the moderators, talk about the rules a little bit. So he's not just immediately accepting. And J.D. Vance said, I strongly suspect we're going to be there on October the 1st, but we're not going to do one of these fake debates where they don't actually have an audience there, where they don't actually set the parameters in a way where we can have a good exchange of ideas. In other words, We're not going to walk into a fake news media garbage debate. We're going to do a real debate, and if CBS agrees to it, then certainly we'll do it. So that was the response from J.D. Vance when he was asked about it. Kamala Harris campaign. Why hasn't she held a news conference? And that question is coming from all people, Jim Acosta at CNN, who was asking that question and he asked the campaign's communications director. I'm sure this is not going to be the first time you've heard this question, but the Trump campaign is also going after the vice president for not doing enough interviews, for not holding a press conference. Would it kill you guys to have a press conference? Why hasn't she had a press conference? So Kamala's communications director, man by the name of Michael Tyler, laughed and said, well, the vice president and Governor Walz have been busy crisscrossing the country since the launch of this campaign. And went on to say, you saw the ways in which they went across the battleground states last week, generating rallies of thousands, 10,000 here, 15,000 there. But Acosta actually pushed back. And Acosta said, but Michael, a campaign really, he said, a campaign really is, I'm sorry, I want to start over. Acosta said, but Michael, a campaign really isn't really a press conference. Why hasn't she had a press conference? She's the vice president. She can handle the questions. Why not do it? Acosta says. And he said, we absolutely are going to do it. You hear her take questions as she's out on the stump. And as she said last week, we're going to be having a sit-down interview here before the end of the month. I will believe that when I see it. I don't believe that's going to happen. So Acosta actually said, would it kill you guys to have a press conference? So that's coming from all people, Jim Acosta over at CNN, in this kind of upside down crazy campaign that we are seeing unfold. So that's also a big story. Also, there were anti-Israel agitators who clashed with police in New York City this week following a rally by the Harris campaign. So pro-Palestinian protesters clashed with law enforcement. They stormed an after party marking this was after the rally in New York City. So the video footage is out there. Demonstrators seen lining the street following this Harris rally, and protesters saying things like, you set Palestine on fire. How dare you? Another yelled. I can't help but think about Greta Thunberg. How dare you? Remember that? How dare you? Every time I hear that nonsense. We've also got the president of Columbia University, who has resigned a little over 1 year in office. And she announced that she was resigning. She said it's been a period of turmoil where it has been difficult to overcome divergent views across our community. This period has taken a considerable toll on my family, as it has for others in the community. It's an email message that she sent out. And so she has resigned. This is the president of Columbia University, a little over a year into that role. Also, the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, needs to take a more decisive action to protect their Jewish students. This is coming from a judge who said he was appalled at the state of campus affairs for Jewish students. And he said, in the year of 2024, in the United States of America, In the state of California, in the city of Los Angeles, Jewish students were excluded from portions of the UCLA campus because they refused to denounce their faith. And the judge said this fact is so unimaginable and so abhorrent to our constitutional guarantee of religious freedom that it bears repeating. Jewish students were excluded from portions of the UCLA campus because they refused to denounce their faith. And do you know that UCLA is actually pushing back against this judge's ruling? Spokesperson criticized the ruling, saying it would improperly hamstring our ability to respond to events on the ground. And I mean, that is just complete and utter bullcrap. There's just no other way to phrase that. That is it. But that's the response from UCLA. The judge here is shocked. Michael Heflin is a professor of law and religion at Pepperdine University. And he said this is a significant decision, one that has legal consequences. And he said, unlike many of the most prominent schools that have dealt with encampments, UCLA is a public university, and it's subject to the First Amendment, including the right to free religious expression. And so this is a very big ruling we're seeing this week. Were you a little bit, did you find your heart maybe up in your throat yesterday when you learned that hackers may have stolen the social security numbers of every American? There are stories that have been out there. This story is actually trending this morning because it certainly got my attention. I don't know about you. And I think for me, the takeaway here is I'm going to have to take some steps, and there are a lot of products out there that help you protect your identity and so on. And now that they have your social security numbers, that is very alarming. So it's, at least it was to me. I want to speak for you, but I found it alarming. But which is maybe likely the reason why that story is trending this morning. Others may feel the same way. Also, the latest CPI report that's out says inflation is easing. Do you believe it? Do you believe that? Or do you believe what you see when you go to the grocery store? Do you believe when you go to buy, clothing for your family? Do you see that inflation is easing? So I've got to say, when it comes to these numbers and there are numbers coming out, I just don't believe a lot of this stuff. I believe what I see. I believe the evidence of my eyes. I believe the evidence, when the final total of my grocery bill comes up. I believe that evidence. The CPI report, inflation is easing. Really, are you seeing that when you go and purchase goods or services? So we'll talk about that. There's a very interesting column at the New York Post by Miranda Devine. And I have a lot of respect for Miranda Devine. And she said she was talking about these issues as we talk about the speech that Donald Trump gave in North Carolina. So Devine starts out, she says, the one thing people should know about Donald Trump is that he doesn't choke, not on the golf course and not in life. It was obvious when he rose to his feet in Butler, Pennsylvania, after almost being assassinated, raised his fist in defiance. Even champion golfers choke, but not Trump, she says. Self-doubt is not part of his DNA. He's proud of the fact that when the going gets tough, he's at his best. And then she goes and talks at length about Donald Trump's rally in Asheville, North Carolina yesterday. And she says, Democrats will pull every economic lever available to them to try to help Kamala Harris. And it didn't hurt that the latest CPI data that they had highlighted, or it actually highlights the pain felt by everyday Americans every time they buy their groceries. The cost of everything is up more than 20% since Biden-Harris took office. Real average weekly earnings fell in July. Unemployment is up. Median household income is down. Credit card debt has hit a record high. I think that's the reality that you and I are living. And Miranda Devine points it out really brilliantly in this piece this morning at the New York Post. And that's a look at the big stories this morning. Thank you so much for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show. I really do appreciate it. This hour of our show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Camp and Robbins, weekdays at 2. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.
Okay, we are off.
Hotline is brought to you by Tires. See in-store details about how to get rebates from major tire manufacturers. 2 Sioux Falls locations to serve you.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But DC politicians want to change that with a This bill lets corporate mega stores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Mega stores make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.
Some days running this board, it's like my first day on the job. I have to adopt some best practices, and then every time consistently.
Together, we're not just building roofs, we're building a legacy of betterment for generations to come.
Okay.
We continue to do together. Mitchell Roofing and Siding. Call us today, 996-8648.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.
Not all policies will qualify. Not available in all states. Individuals and businesses with tax problems. Listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, U.S. Tax Shield can help you take back control. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Our team of tax attorneys can stop collections and get you protected. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the BBB, so call 800-466-9625. U.S. Tax Shield, 800-466-9625.
6:30, partly cloudy and 62 at Kello. Joe Bowman is in the Kello.com News Center. And coming up, South Dakota and 9 other states are fighting to keep the federal government from trampling state rights when conducting state and local elections. Also, over 100 people in Brandon are about to be laid off. Shape Sioux Falls 2050 was unveiled yesterday. Joe will have details on those stories and more coming up for you in just a few moments. It's great to have you along. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello.
Fox News, I'm Gianna Gelosi. Former President Donald Trump holding a rally in Asheville, North Carolina Wednesday with a focus on the economy while also taking shots at Vice President Kamala Harris.
Kamala has declared that tackling inflation will be a day one priority. Think of it for her, but day one for Kamala was 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Why hasn't she done it?
Harris will be in North Carolina tomorrow and will reportedly outline her economic agenda. But today she's going to make a joint trip to Maryland with President Biden for the first time since he dropped out of the race. Another attempt at Middle East ceasefire talks.
We do know overnight Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave his negotiating team a wider mandate to bring to the table, though analysts remain pessimistic about the possibility of success.
That's Fox's Tracy Angst. America's listening to Fox News.
Kello News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. South Dakota, along with 9 other states, have filed a class action lawsuit to block an executive order from President Biden. The order calls on federal agencies to promote voter registration and participation in state races. The lawsuit argues the executive order could subject state voting officials to possible federal interference. Attorney General Marty Jackley calls the order another example of federal government overreach. Over 100 people in Brandon are about to be laid off. The trucking company A&A Express announced it will be closing this week. CEO Gino Cannon said the company was working to find a buyer or capital infusion to sustain operations, but the clock ran out. The 111 employees' last day at the Brandon-based company will be this Friday. They're laying the groundwork for the future of Sioux Falls, and they want to hear from you. Yesterday, City Planning and Development Director Jeff Eckhoff unveiled Shape Sioux Falls 2050. He says the city is in the early stages of getting the planning tool off the ground. It's similar to another plan done back in 2016 that helped planning and development in recent years.
It made the process more predictable. It made the process more digestible for our development community and for people making decisions about where they live. It did make things go much smoother, more predictable. And I think as a result, we were able to develop faster in a smoother fashion than we would have without it.
The new effort will involve city residents to get their input on what's important for the future. And in sports, South Dakota is facing elimination after dropping its first game in the Little League World Series. The team from Sioux Falls lost to Florida last night, 2-1. South Dakota can still stay alive in the tournament. They play an elimination game this Saturday at 2 p.m. In Canaries baseball, the Birds are certainly having a rough time in Winnipeg. The Goldeyes swept the Canaries 7-0 in Game 2 yesterday. They wrap up the 3-game series tonight. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Partly sunny skies today in Sioux Falls. We do have a chance of a widely scattered shower or thunder shower late this afternoon. High near 80, west wind at 10 to 20. Tonight, partly cloudy overnight, low 62. Tomorrow's high temperature back to 81. Partly cloudy, northwest winds at 10 to 20. Low 80s for the weekend. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens. What was that? I just want to bring up a point here.
Okay. We're ready to roll here. See how we're doing for time.
Is America's biggest grocery retailer about to begin charging you based on your income? Lincoln Commando for Dell.
If you will excuse me for a moment, I'm going to step out. I'll be right back, and then we'll get underway with trending stories. Something else I wanted to share with you. It'll come to me. I'll be right back.
When demand is up and turkeys at Thanksgiving, turkey prices may go up. The chain is exploring ways to target prices based on an individual's so-called consumer profile. It's collaborating with the artificial intelligence company, Intelligence Node. Some customers may be charged more based on their shopping habits and ability to pay. For instance, customers who buy expensive luxury items like better cuts of steak or more expensive wines may pay more for all their items simply because they can. If you look like you make more money, should you be forced to pay more? Join 500,000 folks who get my free newsletter at getkim.com. This year, Dell Technologies Back to School event is delivering impressive tech with an inspiring purpose. Learn how Dell is helping Computer Aid, whose work is helping solar community hubs with tech and AI literacy skills to empower remote, displaced, or disconnected communities around the world. Help Dell make a difference and shop AI-ready PCs powered by Snapdragon X Series processors at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals. For details and restrictions, go to Dell.com/deals.
Hey, have you heard about The Current? It's this amazing free tech newsletter that keeps you in the loop about everything AI, making money, and insider tips to get ahead at work and life. Everything is tech now. I can't afford to fall behind, and neither can you. In just 5 minutes a day, that's it. The Current makes it so easy to stay ahead without feeling overwhelmed. Join 500,000 people at getthecurrent.com. It's free. Don't be left behind. That's getthecurrent.com. Sign up now. Getthecurrent.com.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is brought to you by Tires. Your Give You More tire and automotive store. Financing programs available. 2 Sioux Falls locations to serve you.
Bring charm from the outdoors into your home with Renewal by Anderson picture and combination windows. Optimizing a beautiful view and light in a bedroom, kitchen, or living room for ABC Seamless of Sioux Falls. 665-646-667 today.
Things in life happen unexpectedly. When temps rise, you expect your home to be warm inside.
I want to thank all of you for being here. I really do appreciate it. Watching the show on YouTube. Thank you. You know, I do 2 shows each day. I do the radio show and have the camera on. And I don't have a chance to have a lot of conversation with you because, to be honest, my focus is on the radio show versus, you know, the YouTube audience. So I want to invite you to join me for the 4th hour. I do a 4th hour of the Greg Belfrage Show each weekday, and that's where I have an opportunity, you know, and I've got some growth going on there. It's small amount. I'm not saying we're blowing the world away, not by any means. But if you'll join me for the 4th hour coming up this morning at 9:30, I have much more of a chance to interact with folks, much like I do on the radio show. You know, I'm taking calls, I'm interacting with listeners. Well, I have the same opportunity to do that during the 4th hour. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can find that also here. But I had thought about ending this 6 a.m. hour. And I don't think I will. I think I'll continue doing it. I just will not be engaging much directly with the YouTube audience. So I want you to be mindful of that and understanding what's going on. So, all right, I got to get back to it here. Here we go. 6:38, partly cloudy and 62. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello. This hour brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Also want to invite you to keep listening today for your chance to win tickets to see Styx and Foreigner. They are coming to the Denny Sanford Premier Center Wednesday, August 28th. And coming up this morning, we'll have another chance for you to win tickets. So just keep listening to win.
Trending now.
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
These are the big stories trending this morning. Donald Trump was in Asheville, North Carolina yesterday and talked about his vision for the economy, talked very specifically about some of those issues. And depending where you go in terms of coverage of this, the coverage of the speech, pretty much going to be one of 2 things. It was Donald Trump and all of these negative things that he was saying about Kamala Harris versus the actual substance of what he was saying. The media is focusing on all of I'll give you an example, CNBC. Trump packs economic speech with personal attacks on Harris. You notice everything's a personal attack. It's not a political, it's all these personal attacks. Oh, yeah. Versus the other way around, right? Yeah, Tim Walz is not out there engaging in any personal attacks on anybody, right? Give me a break. So Donald Trump promised to end the era of inflation, mayhem, and misery. That's the headline at Breitbart. I think he's doing a much better job being honest what Donald Trump actually said during the speech yesterday. Also, there were thousands of people that descended then on Asheville to attend this event featuring Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. This was at the Thomas Wolfe Auditorium. So it's got a limited capacity, actually just over 2,400. But despite that, saw lines of hopeful attendees stretching for hours earlier in the day. So folks were there and wanting to get in. Also, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has agreed to a vice presidential debate with J.D. Vance. This would be October 1st on CBS. And so Walz said that he wrote on social media, "See you on October 1, J.D." And so Rolling Stone had to put in their headline. Rolling Stone is just an absolute joke. Leftist, dribble. Tim Walz agrees to debate J.D. Vance if he shows up. That was a comment that Walz made a week ago. That's not part of this story. Washington Examiner. Walz accepts the vice presidential debate invitation, goads Vance to agree to terms. And J.D. Vance is telling Fox News, we're going to take a look at it. And, what we don't want is a fake news media debate, he said. There are certain things that he wants to see if he's going to do the debate. Personally, I like to see him stand firm. I think they're in the driver's seat. Also, we have the president of Columbia University stepping down after about a year in the job. So the president of Columbia now has resigned. This is months after the Israel-Hamas war protests have really turned the campus upside down. Also, almost 2.7 billion data records from national public data have been leaked. What it means is, bottom line, is that every American social security number was involved in this national public data breach. And Tech Times, I don't think, was very clear in their headline. Yahoo News was much clearer. Hackers may have stolen the social security numbers of every American. How to protect yourself. Be looking into that, I think. I will be looking into. There are services that are out there that help you in that regard. And I think I'm at the point, after hearing about that data breach, I'm at that point where, oh yeah, I'm on board. Also, the judge in the Donald Trump hush money case has refused to recuse himself now for a third time. This is Judge Juan Merchan. So Donald Trump has lost his latest bid for a new judge in that case. So Judge Merchan has once again declined to step aside. And he said that the demand from Trump's team was a rehash rife with inaccuracies. He's a joke. I mean, he's an absolute joke. They are just he's absolutely determined. I won't say they, he is just absolutely determined that this will proceed. Also, the Biden administration is speeding up process of asylum seekers at the Canadian border. Border crossings, you know what's going on with border crossings, and it's not just on the southern border, the northern border as well. So Homeland Security wants to speed up the asylum processing at the northern border to try to deter migrant crossings, the way this is being presented. So they're making two changes to how the U.S. processes migrants under a longstanding safe third country asylum agreement. Also trending this morning, we were talking, one of the big stories this week was the conversation between Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the interview that they did. And the EU had made censorship demands then of Elon Musk. There was this, it's been a story that's been trending the last several days that, this conversation, it was just a conversation that Elon Musk had with Donald Trump, talking about these issues and so on. And being warned by, an individual in EU's tech department about, any potential inaccuracies and so on. Well, now the actual tech commissioner is, this has backfired. The EU commissioner written, again, this was an open letter. It was addressed to Musk. And it came to light then hours ahead of the interview between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And he said in the letter, EU regulators have taken a firm stance against X and its owner in the past. And this letter, essentially telling Musk to watch his step, has sparked backlash. So there has been and this was sent to Musk apparently without permission. The letter was. So the European Commission now is distancing itself from that letter this week and denying that he actually had received permission to send that letter. So that's the follow-up. They're distancing themselves from that. Because it was a clear attempt at censorship is what it was. I mean, it was a clear attempt at censorship meant to intimidate. And Elon Musk would have none of it. That guy's hide is as thick as Donald Trump's. I mean, in that regard, they are two of a kind. And I was on X this morning because I'm posting links, in the morning as we're doing the live YouTube show. I post a link each morning reminding folks we're getting underway, and put a link out there so folks can join. And as I'm on X this morning, Elon Musk, I follow Elon Musk on X. He's one of the accounts that I watch, and I highlight him. And I just think he's very, very interesting person. Don't always agree with him, but he's gutsy. So Elon Musk posts this video this morning, and he said, critics will say that this is AI, use of AI. And below it is a video of him and Donald Trump out on the street, and they're dancing. And they're getting down these, the critics will say this is AI. Clearly it is. Oh, man, that made me laugh. That was just before the show this morning. It's a great way to start the morning. Elon Musk has a great sense of humor. He really does. Also trending this morning, The Trump assassination, there's a, the assassination attempt now, a House panel has kicked off a probe looking into the assassination attempt. So that task force has begun their investigation, and they have sent a slew of letters to federal agencies seeking information. So they are working now in earnest, looking into this. Among letters that they sent out, they sent letters to Attorney General Merrick Garland, FBI Director Christopher Wray, the Director of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas, and Acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe Jr. They're requesting documents, briefings, want more information. Also, there are reports that inflation has slowed to 2.9%, a 2.9% annual rate in July. That's the lowest since 2021. So that was better than expectations. Also trending this morning, the South Carolina Supreme Court has agreed to hear an appeal on jury tampering for Alex Murdaugh. And that could help give Murdaugh a new murder trial in South Carolina. So the South Carolina Supreme Court has agreed to hear his appeal regarding jury tampering. Also, there are stories trending this morning about those astronauts, U.S. astronauts on the International Space Station. Now NASA is saying they may have to stay there until next year. NASA is still deciding whether to keep 2 astronauts at the space station. So they could catch a ride on SpaceX next flight. That option would keep them at the space station then until next February. The test pilots had anticipated being away just a week or so when they rocketed away, but they now have been there for an extended period of time. They was initially only supposed to be there for 8 days. And days has turned into weeks and potentially months. And also, stories trending this morning that Hunter Biden reportedly asked the State Department to help Burisma during the time that his father was vice president. I think there's a lot of information there about the Bidens and that really is all kind of taking a back seat, really, to other things. I mean, that really was the story of the day. These investigations into Hunter Biden and Burisma and what was taking place there, and investigations that were taking place in Congress. And then you have, some pretty significant events taking place with the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, the president jumping out of stepping away from the presidential race. Kamala Harris now really has changed the political landscape. The United States is still hoping that a deal is going to be possible in the Gaza ceasefire talks, but Hamas says they will not take part. And yet the U.S. is still hoping that they'll be able to come to some kind of an agreement. And it's like, Hamas is not taking part. What kind of agreement? Is that just Pollyannish thinking? Sure appears to be. So the Gaza talks are drawing closer. Hamas is not going to take part. So how effective are those talks going to be if you don't have Hamas there and interested in taking part? Other stories trending this morning. Ernesto is now strengthened to become a Category 1 hurricane, leaving nearly half of Puerto Rico without power. Also, the president saying he will attend Donald Trump's inauguration if Donald Trump winds up winning the election in November. So the president taking a swing then at Donald Trump's manners, saying that if Trump were reelected in November, he would attend the inauguration. Donald Trump, of course, did not attend Joe Biden's inauguration. Also trending this morning, Mars, the candy company Mars, is buying Kellanova. Kellanova produces things like Pop-Tarts and Pringles. Oh, always a favorite of mine. Got to stay away from those Pringles. So Mars is buying Kellanova for nearly $36 billion. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. Thanks so much for being here this hour of the Greg Belfrage Show, brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month, $657, partly cloudy and 62. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello. Well, I want to thank you very much, my friend, for letting me join you this morning. I hope you'll hit that like button, and I hope you'll also join me at 9:30 for the fourth hour of the Greg Belfrage Show. So we do that from down in my office. It's more of a relaxed setting, and I've got some regulars who have been there daily, and I hope you will be too. Hope you'll give it a try. And again, if you missed those, I post the fourth hour. You can also find it at kello.com after the fact. Anyway, thanks so much for being here. Take care. I'll see you again next time. So long until then.